Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan. We're out the Motor City Madmouth. Very good crew tonight. And then again, I'm pretty happy with a lot of my crew members. But these three here to me are what I consider the heavyweights of the heavyweights. And anyways, Rick, welcome back. You obviously you're the first part of a doubleheader.
Yep.
Fire Up Wisconsin will follow 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Welcome back, Rick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Eric, what can I say, man? You're back where you belong on baseball.
Yes, sir. Glad to be back.
And George Eichhorn, you're Mr. Versatility. You go wherever we go.
Oh, yeah. And I love baseball. So thank you for having me on again, Scott.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, listen, folks, for those of you tuning in for the first time, George Eichhorn and I have only been working together 43 years. So I can't count to 43, but I can certainly say 43. And what George and I have done over the years, you wouldn't have enough time anyways. We have another show, so we'll leave it for the ages. So just to give you all an overview of the topics that we're going to talk about, mainly three, plus we also incorporate parting shots, as we're going to talk about the top 5 breakable records, to talk a little bit about Babe Ruth tonight, and of course some hot stove news that Eric Katz texted me that was pertinent to the broadcast, and of course our usual parting shot segment. With that said, okay, we'll go on to our first topic. Alex Curry's top 5 unbreakable records. He works for MLB on Fox. Okay, now these are some interesting ones. So this is one of those things where everything is open for debate, which is why I chose this topic in the first place, especially with the three of you guys. Okay, remember Eric Katz may be in his 20s, but this kid acts like he's 50, 60 years old. So he can throw that aid business out the window. But anyways, how you doing, Will Vogel? Glad you're tuning in tonight. Appreciate you. All right, so let's talk about the top 5 breakable records. Barry Bonds, 762 home runs. Oh, come on. I got to lead off with Rick Curdy on this one.
Barry Bonds, someone will eventually break it, I don't think it's unbreakable. I don't think it's, especially now with what's going on in sports with these players, like Judge, who can hit him like 500 feet. So, no, I disagree. Someone will eventually break it.
What about you, Eric?
I disagree. Again, everyone thought that nobody would be able to break Roger Maris's record of 61, and we saw that this summer. And obviously, someone's gonna break it. It's not gonna happen anytime soon, but someone eventually will get on a tear and just hit and just do it. This is the power era. And I really think that eventually we'll find somebody, not right now, but eventually.
George?
Well, I'm going to disagree. I don't think anybody's going to make it. Judge, yeah, sure, he's got it now, and he's got a good future ahead of him, obviously, but I don't see anybody consistently doing it. And this is obviously a tainted record because we know that Barry probably used so many different drugs, and we don't want to get into that whole discussion, but I'm just saying he piled on so many while he was bloated. And so for that purpose alone, that the fact that the players are going through drug testing and screening nowadays, the era of that kind of long distance home run consistently, Cabrera couldn't do it. Pujols couldn't do it. So there's 2 guys right there that are either retiring or near retirement. And again, I mean, especially in the case of Cabrera, he's hurt a lot. Pujols too had some injuries, but all I'm saying is, no, I'm going to agree with that. I don't think it's going to be broken.
Okay. Next one, though, really intrigues me. Shoheiohtani, 10 plus wins and 30 home runs. My goodness. All right, George.
That guy is something else, isn't he?
Yeah, I saw him in June.
And again, so this guy's saying it won't be broken? It won't be matched?
You're right. Unbreakable records.
Yeah. It's a new record, okay, right? Although it's a record, obviously, because nobody in history has done that, what he's done. I don't know. I mean, there could be another one, another player. I mean, from the even from South America or from Asia, one of those athletes coming over again. And it could be an American-born guy too. I mean, I'm not trying to be, labeling this guy for just being, what he is. I'm just saying that no, this one I'm going to not agree. I think it will be done again. By whom, I don't know.
Yeah, let me give my takes on Bonds. I didn't voice an opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll get broken, but it should have an asterisk. That's all I can say. It really should because of these steroids. Now, Shoheiohtani, sorry, George, I do disagree. This guy's a freak athlete. He really is. 10 wins and 30 home runs. To me, that's just one of those records that I think Shoheiohtani's going to earn that one. All right, I'll turn over to Eric.
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is something we haven't seen since like Babe Ruth. So it's pretty much Ohtani and Babe Ruth. And I don't see anybody doing what he's doing, pitching and hitting home runs. And if they do that, I don't think they'll be consistent with wins or power. So that's a record I don't see being broken at all.
Eric?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to break it. Problem is now with baseball is they have you specialize. They have a lot of these specialization schools where you specialize in either pitching or they have or whatever. I don't see someone coming over and doing that again. I mean, if they're good at one thing, they're probably not good in the other. I mean, Ohtani's just special. I mean, it's just, he's not a player that you'll probably see again for a really long time. But the thing about it is it's probably not going to come from an American because in America, they have you specialized. They don't, like at one point, the talent pool, that's why you won't see Bo Jackson anymore. The talent pools are just too deep and they're just too big now. But they really want you just specializing in one thing. So with that, I don't see anybody breaking that one.
Okay. All right, well, I'll go to Joe DiMaggio, 56-game hitting streak. Well, all right, I'll go back to Rick.
You're lucky to see someone play 56 games in a row. So you ain't gonna see no one's gonna even come close to that. It's all about home runs, unfortunately. The art of hitting is slowly dying in this new generation, which I'm sad to see. I hate home runs. I'd rather see a 1-0 game. And that's one of those streaks that, I mean, it's been around for so long. And we've had so many great hitters. You would think like a Ted Williams or, a Ty Cobb or any of those great hitters, and they never broke it. So I don't see it ever happening.
Yeah, Joe D, what do you think, Eric?
No. Problem is players, they don't play enough for it to happen. They don't play like every day like they used to. I mean, Pete Rose, say what you want about him as a person. Say what you will about him, but Pete Rose was probably the last guy to really have a serious pursuit at it. And the most that a guy has gotten now is maybe 20, 25 games of having consecutive hits. But I don't see it happening. You have to have like just that eye where you just can hit the ball wherever. I mean, sure, we got some guys now who can hit, but I don't see them do it consecutively. Pete Rose couldn't do it. I don't see anybody else doing it.
All right, George, last but not least, you, Joe.
Well, yeah, I got to agree with the guys. I don't see anybody doing it. I get a kick out of the team public relations departments now. And you know this, Scott, how excited they get like, oh, yeah, Miguel Cabrera has hit in. That's his 14th straight game he's hit in. And, this is what it's come down to. I mean, you get guys maybe in their 20 range. We haven't hit a 30 in a while, I don't believe. But, it's just not happening anymore. I mean, the players are rested a lot. They get injured a lot, or they take days off, it's a long, grueling season, 162 games. And you guys are right. I mean, to get a player like DiMaggio to do it, I mean, we've had some great hitters since him. Like you mentioned, Eric, Pete Rose, Cabrera, I mentioned earlier, Pujols, I mentioned. I mean, guys that have won batting titles, and they didn't come anywhere close to DiMaggio. So, no, Scott, that one's staying.
Yeah, I'm not touching it. I think Rose got 44 hits or something in the 40s to get close, nibble away at it. But no, this one's not going anywhere. Joe D is safe. You don't have to worry. Whether you're underground or inside of a frozen place out in Arizona, your record's sticking no matter where you're. Sorry, I had to mention that. Anyways, Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina, 325 starts as a battery. Broke it, actually. Mickey Lolich and Bill Freehan owned the record before. So, but Mr. Curry thinks that this one won't be touched. I give him creativity for putting this one in. And like I said, Mickey Lolich and Bill Freehan had it for a long time. So, all right, George, What do you think about Wainwright and Yadier Molina?
Oh no, I don't see anybody doing that. I mean, we've had double play combinations. Of course, we were blessed in Detroit with Sweet Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell for all those years together. And like you mentioned, one of my heroes, both of those guys were my heroes. Mickey Lolich, of course, the star of the 1968 World Series. Bill Freehand, a guy that didn't get the recognition he deserved. All-star games galore. What they did this year, Wainwright and Molina, I mean, that was something special. I mean, no question about it. That was something special. And again, like some of the things we just talked about earlier, with guys getting hurt, guys getting days off, pitchers not being able to start, missing starts. I mean, it's just too many things going on right now in baseball. The specialization that Eric and Rick referred to, we're not going to see this kind of thing. I say that one's going to stand.
Eric?
I see it standing. I mean, with the combination of Wainwright and Yadi Molina, I mean, number one, it's one heck of a combination. I don't think we'll see anything like it. Number one, we got free agency now, and these guys, as soon as they're eligible, they're going to test the market. I mean, they can go ahead and say, I want to stay, whatever. I mean, what else are they going to stay on camera? And, they could say that all they want, but at the end of the day, we got free agency, so these guys switch teams so often, it's not even funny. Also, long-term contracts, they're trying not to delve out the long-term contracts really anymore to star players, just because they know that when they become a free agent, it's when their skills really start to decline. And number three, trades. I mean, guys get traded all the time, whether particularly pitchers, when let's just say the team's having a bad year or whatever, and they can get some prospects in return. I know prospects are becoming a lot more valued in baseball today than they've ever been. Mm-hmm. And so that's another reason too. And it's just, due to all those factors going in, with the amount of players changing teams via trade or, and also guys just also, when they don't like it anymore, we're seeing guys willing to walk away young. I think given all those factors, I don't see it happening again.
Excellent points, Eric. All right, I'll turn over to Rick.
Yeah, I totally agree with George and Eric. It ain't going to happen. Like Eric said, free agency, people want to test the market there, and sometimes they'll play there for like a year or two, test free agency again. So it's all about money. Where can I get the most money? And that's just the generation today. You don't see that type of loyalty with one team or anymore. So it's very, very, very rare. You're going to see that today. So I don't see it happening. And what they did was something very special, and it wouldn't even get close to being touched.
Yeah, I'm not touching it either. Leave it alone. They earned the record. They took it away from Mickey and Bill, but hey, well, here we go. We're talking about tomorrow night's guest, Jeremy Ballright. George, you saw him yesterday. He's going to be back on the Sports Exchange tomorrow. So good evening, Jeremy. Glad to have you back. So with that said, no, nobody's touching that record. And last but not least, the guy for whom an award is named after, Cy Young. Oh. Now, here's the interesting part about this whole record thing here with him, okay? They're talking about 749 complete games, not the win total that everybody would expect at over 500 wins. So we'll only talk about the win total, Rick. 749 complete games. Wow.
Yeah, that it will never, ever, ever be broken. You're lucky to see someone with 3 complete games. That part of baseball, unfortunately, is dying. I love the art of complete games. And, of course, we've been talking about, like Dave Roberts and Cash, and my favorite word, analytics. You don't see it anymore. It's a dying art. I'm sad to see it. I hate analytics. Those complete games, forget it. It wouldn't even be touched. Not even close.
To Curry's credit, and he could have easily have brought the wins total. He goes to 749 complete games. I'm actually glad he brought that up. Okay, Eric.
No. I mean, that's the most obvious no. Probably one of the more obvious no's we'll have tonight is, number one, these guys, they don't throw enough. He was pitching at a time where you could pitch the next day after throwing. Now you're lucky if you get this guy to go 5-6 innings and have him throw 150 plus pitches, which you don't really see anymore anyway. But with that, I don't see it happening. I mean, these guys just don't throw. These guys just don't throw enough.
Okay, George.
Yeah, and Jeremy just Scott mentioned too. He says something about now that the MLB has embraced the DH for both the AL and the NL. He says that maybe the number of complete games may go up eventually. Well, yeah, a little bit it might go up, but our friend Jeremy is right, and you guys are right on. Nobody's going to touch this one. You can't touch this, as they say. And you know what? Cy Young was just, God, what an unbelievable pitcher he was back in the day. And complete games, yeah, completely disregarded by Major League Baseball now. All the specialization, like we referred to earlier, especially the pitchers, the relief pitchers, specialization, setup guys, one batter guys or two batter guys, before you get to the ace in the ninth inning. I mean, there's just, it's not going to happen.
No, nobody's touching it. So let's go to a couple of records that obviously did not get mentioned by Alex, but we know the obvious one. Pete Rose's hit streak is not going to be touched at all. And we know Cal Ripken Jr.'s consecutive games isn't going to be touched as well. So, Jeremy's on a roll. You know what? Here's what he's got. The pitch count and analytics are taken away from the complete game. No doubt about that. And we'll just show his for our audience out there. Now that the MLB has embraced the DH or AL, that's possible, but I'm not holding my breath now.
They'll go by two.
Yeah, no. So let me point out a couple things for you folks that are driving in your vehicles, going on the bus, trains, or whatever. The show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're in front of your computer, go to the South Florida Tribune. Go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune. Please subscribe as well. So you can see us, you can hear us, whatever you want. Please share the broadcast. And we would greatly appreciate it. Hopefully we give you enough information and opinions to go out there so that you can formulate your own conclusions. So, yeah, so as I said, the Rose hit the amount of hits, surpassing Ty Cobb. Amazing, George. Some of these records are passing Tigers, right? Rose,
yeah. And the reason and another one, Scott, I put my hand up to mention to you all. What about Denny McClain getting 30 victories?
Yeah, well, that's a good point too, George.
Ain't gonna happen either. There's a whole bunch of them. Ty Cobb's 367 lifetime batting average. Wouldn't even come close. 24 years, 367. Never gonna happen.
So Jeremy's asking how many complete games Verlander had. So one of you guys come up with that number if y'all want, but no. Well, let's face the reality. Yeah, Denny McClain's 31 game per season. Nobody's touching that. And of course, like I mentioned, Lolich and Freehand got replaced by Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina. Well, yeah, Tiger's being passed. And those are pretty good records. You're going to get passed, you're going to get passed. All right. So with that said, we're going to go to a simpler topic, and then we have some hot stove and have some breaking news I want to talk about as well. So Babe Ruth game used glove fetches a record $1.53 million in the auction. All right, Mr. Yankee, would you spend that kind of money on Babe Ruth's glove? How big are you into memorabilia, Eric?
I like memorabilia. I mean, I don't have a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot here. I got a decent amount. Actually, I got a fair amount of it back at my parents' house, where one of my prized possessions is actually a picture of Yogi Berra with game used dirt from the original Yankee Stadium, not the new current one, the original Bronx Zoo. I like memorabilia. I really do. Problem is, I don't think you'll see me shelling money for Babe Ruth's glove. I mean, that's just obscene. You must have a lot of money kicking around to be able to shell like that. But I do like memorabilia, but I don't think I'd shell that kind of money out for that.
Yeah, $1.53 million for a Babe Ruth used glove. And that's to me to come up with a record. All right, Rick, what do you think about the Babe's glove?
I think it's awesome. If I have Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk money, I probably would buy it. I have it in a glass case with security around and like lasers around. I think it'd be great. I like memorabilia as well. I mostly collect jerseys and things like that. But if I had their money, and I had like security and I had it in a glass vault somewhere, I probably would buy it. But I would have to be the world's richest man.
All right, George, you and I are big on memorabilia. Our deal is programs, media guides, and I've gone to Cooperstown and added some memorabilia. That's the extent of mine. I have lots and lots of media guides and programs. What about you, George?
Well, you know, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Like Rick said, though, if I've got the money and I could play around with it, you know, just like you play with toys, whether it's your own airplane or helicopter, your own ship, your own yacht. I mean, you know, those guys got money, they can do it. But I just, it's amazing that something like that, you know, is still around and still being fetched. And, you know, I think this weren't the slippers that Judy Garland wore for the Wizard of Oz a year or two, a couple of years back. I remember those were sold. It's interesting listening to all that, but I don't have those deep pockets, but some people are into that. And like you said, Scott, I know a lot of our stuff is paper product. It's mostly, you know, magazines, programs, yearbooks, but and there's some things that, you know, are worth things to us personally because things that we've attended or we covered. You know, I won't give up that. And I know you have it also, Scott. We were gifted that piece of the floor. Remember from the Palace of Auburn Hills.
Actually, on my wall over in my house. Well, I keep that.
No, that's something that I'm never going to give up either. You and I covering the Bad Boys and the Pistons era. You know, that was really something special. So those are ones real sentimental. I was fortunate enough to take a photo. I wanted to mention this to you guys, and I never did anything with it. I kicked myself. Joe DiMaggio wore a Yankee uniform and Gene Autry, and it was before the All-Star game I covered in Chicago at Comiskey Park. This was the 50th anniversary All-Star game. And I was happy to be there as a media person, and they were chatting before the game on the field. I was able to take a photograph of them, but darned if I didn't do anything with it. And I never preserved the film that I took that photo with. I got a picture of it, a printout of it. It's not going to get me very far, but boy, that was really something to see Gene Autry conversing with Joe DiMaggio.
Cowboy.
At Comiskey Park, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't get into the film business. If I told you how many rolls of film I never got developed from my trips in Alaska, I'd sit here and go ballistic. So I'm not.
Hey, back in the day when the movie studios, back when like actors and actresses were limited to like movie studios and things like that, and they're you know, the people there would actually, because at the time those movie studios really got careless with the props because they were just, you know, everyday things. But then you'd have, and even people who worked there would take it home as souvenirs because the employer didn't really care at that point.
Yeah, no, Eric, I'm referring to something else, pal. How many camera and film that I never got developed is what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about the other stuff. That's depressing. That's all I'm telling you. I'd rather watch Criminal Minds and think about how criminal it was for me to not go out there and develop that film. Then again, no, maybe I probably better not watch that one because my wife will make me watch it. So I'll stick to her other crime shows. But it was criminal. I didn't get that stuff going out there.
That's a good show. That is a good show.
So anyways, all right, Jeremy's done his research. So you know what? Got to give the man his prompts. All right, here's the answer. With the exception of 22, 21, and 20 has pitched over 280. All right, well, he's doing a little bit of research. Okay, he'll get more of an opportunity to do it then. So now I get depressed when I think about that. But in terms of whether I'd buy the Babe Ruth glove, if I had enough extra cash, I'd do it. I'm wearing this hat of Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I can tell you that Cooperstown has gotten a lot of my coin, whether it's Tiger statues, interesting pictures, and whatnot. So I'm a big memorabilia freak. And again, George, when we've been in the business for over 4 decades, what would you expect anyway? So all right, I want to get to one little hot stove item is what I want to do. And then I've got some breaking news I want to get to before we do parting shots. Hot stove item, Eric, you can introduce the subject since you want to talk about it in the first one.
Well, the Yankees agreed to a multi-year contract, bringing back first baseman Anthonyrizzo for at least the next 2 seasons.
So your thoughts on the move?
It needed it. I mean, number one, they don't have anybody on the farm right now who's ready to come up and play first base for the New York Yankees, and they haven't had that since Don Mattingly. Number two, the free agent crop at first base, not great. I mean, Josh Bell's a good player, not taking away anything from him, but he's not Rizzo. Rizzo is a significantly better baseball player than Anthonyrizzo. But happy they made the move because it could factor into whether Judge comes back. But you know, nevertheless, you know, you want that power bat in the lineup, and a guy like Rizzo who plays just stellar defense at first base really should have won the Gold Glove this year.
Didn't he hit over 30 home runs, if I understand correctly?
He did. He hit 32
Yeah.
home runs.
Yeah, and how many RBIs did he have? Do you remember?
78, but he keep in mind he had that back problem for a lot of the middle part of the year.
32 home runs is 32 home runs is
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
All right, Rick, your thoughts about Rizzo remaining in the Bronx?
I'm not a Yankee fan, so no disrespect, Eric. I don't really care. As long as you got Aaron Boone there, they ain't gonna win nothing. Did they need him? Absolutely. But the biggest fish right out there, Aaron Judge. You better get him because without Aaron Judge, they definitely not going anywhere. But good pickup. They needed to get him. They needed to re-sign him. Good for them. But they ain't gonna win nothing.
I at least won a playoff series, Curdy.
That's awesome. That's great.
Because
they ain't gonna win now with Aaron Judge.
You didn't win in a legit season. Keep that in mind.
That's okay.
Boy, I'll tell you, George. All of a sudden, we got boxing matches going between our people. What a beautiful thing!
Oh yeah,
I'm just honest. I'm just telling you the truth.
Later on, Fire Up Wisconsin with Candy being the right.
Get Aaron Judge. You need Aaron Judge.
111 and 1 and done.
Yeah, I know. I hate Dave Roberts. I want Mike Scioscia.
Well, he's not coming, so you might as well root for Roberts.
I think I'll go for the Charlotte Knights.
Yeah, well, I don't choke as hard as your team does.
That's
okay. And win a World Series in a legitimate year, and then we'll talk.
Wow.
All right, George.
Well, settle down, boys. No. $40 million for Rizzo. Oh my God. Well, Steinbrenner was his name, Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah,
came out today, and he says that he wants Judge to stay a Yankee. So I think this could be the forerunner of things to come. They're going to sign both those guys, I believe. That he's going to keep Judge there. That's just my opinion. I have nothing to base it on other than the fact that Hal made a comment today that he wants to keep a Judge around. Rizzo's a good ball player. I mean, yeah, he's somebody that you want to keep around. There's nobody else to fill his shoes, like you said, Eric. I'm sorry, in the farm system to step right in. So I think Rizzo's a good guy. I mean, I would have kept him if I was in that same position. But there's more to come. The Yankees got the big one. They gotta, if they want to keep him, and it sounds like they do, they got to give Aaron Judge a huge contract.
Record breaking.
Yeah, according to our crack statistician Candy Evelyn, Jeremy, 26 complete games what Verlander has. So, as far as the Rizzo, well, I believe he's from Parkland, Florida, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. So, more power to him. Everybody knows about Stoneman Douglas, and we'll get into that. But he does a lot to donate to his school and takes part of in our community because I live 10, 12 minutes away from Parkland. But hey, you know what? Had a productive year. The Yankees. The one thing about the Yankees, if they think a player's worth their while, they're rarely going to ever get outbid. They're really not. Maybe that every once in a while, Robinson Cano decides to go out to Seattle. And what happened to his career? It went downhill anyways after he left New York. So
he's a cheater.
That was a scumbag. Robinson Cano's a scumbag for that.
My point is, guys, that the Yankees rarely ever let players get away due to money. If they leave, they leave on their own, but not because of cash. All right. So, more power to him for keeping Rizzo. Again, I have a little partiality because of the Parkland connection. All right. We'll get to our breaking news, and we got parting shots, and we have Fire Up Wisconsin immediately after this. Today, Manager of the Year for American League, Terry Francona, Cleveland Guardians. Buck Showalter, Manager of the Year for the Mets. All right, Rick Curdy, surprised with those selections?
No, the American League, I had Dusty Baker, but Terry Francona is a great manager. He every year he does more with less. No surprise, and I've been saying Buck Showalter all season long. And if he didn't win it, Rob Thompson would have been my other pick. But no big surprise. Well deserved.
All right, Eric.
I mean, I would have rather seen Brandon Hyde get it. I mean, with the work he did with the Orioles this year, being able to get them above 500 with them being so poor the year prior, I mean, it was impressive. But again, Terry Francona, I mean, not taking away anything from him because he's a great manager. Because, like you say, Scott, he gives his teams a fighting chance every single year, and this year just demonstrated that. Certainly gave the Yankees a run for their money.
That's true. All right, George.
Well, Francona, I thought deserved it because most people picked either Minnesota or Chicago, the White Sox, to win that division, especially the White Sox. And Francona is consistent. He's been a winner. This is the third time he's won the award.
Right.
I think it was a good choice. And again, Buck did a great job with the Mets. Obviously, they had a great year. They fizzled in the playoffs, but he still had a great season. And the thing is I know you said that, Rick, about Baker, but don't forget this voting is conducted before the playoffs start. So they didn't know the Houston Astros were expected to win. So I can't go along with Baker getting it this year based on the regular season because they were expected to do that. Now, what they did in the postseason is not reflective. The baseball writers, they cast their vote after the last game of the regular season. You don't take into consideration the playoffs, and I like it that way. Right. So I'm not trying to argue with you, Rick. I just said that. But Baker, he was expected to win. They had the tools, they had the horses to win. Yeah. Francona, no, they didn't. I didn't think they would do that good.
Yeah, me either.
I picked Cleveland to be in third, Tigers fourth. But no argument here on Buck Showalter. He's a great guy, great manager.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I'll say is I think both that they got it right. Francona deserved it. American League. He took a team with very little payroll and made a lot out of it. Buck Showalter, what can I say? They were a dysfunctional mess before he got there. Even when they had pitching issues during the year, he never panicked, kept him in it, still got him to the playoffs. And you know what? Steve Cohen should be thrilled that he was able to add Buck Showalter. So the bottom line is I think Francona and Buck Showalter were worthy of their honors, and they certainly deserved it. All right, what we're going to do is go to parting shot. So with that said, Rick, Curdy, lead off.
Well, usually my parting shot, I like to say something, on my mind that irritates me, but I'm not this tonight. I'm actually going to play tribute to Fred Hickman. Fred Hickman passed away last week. One of the first that I love seeing, him and Nick Charles on CNN Sports at night. They were two of my favorite, just professional, consistent, not like today with the yelling and the screaming and the hollering and the annoying comments. They just did their job. Professional. Fred Hickman to me was a pioneer. Is one of the first I ever saw. Him and Nick Charles were a great duo. Sad to see him pass away, but you know what? He's a total legend in the sports industry, and I want to dedicate this show to Fred Hickman.
Well done. Yeah, actually, he worked in the Detroit market for, I think, WDIV. George, was he on the who was he covering? Was it the Tigers? Is that what he did? Or I don't remember.
I can't recall. He covered all sports. Obviously, he was a part-time anchor for the WDIV Channel 4 NBC in Detroit. Yeah, good guy, real good guy.
Yeah, I met him once. No problem with him over the Red Wings game, believe it or not. But Rick, well done. I'm glad you brought up Fred Hickman. All right, Eric Katz, give me your parting shot.
Well, I should have mentioned this for the NL Manager of the Year voting. Like, how dare they not make Brian Snitker the Manager of the Year in the National League? The Braves played out of their minds in September to overtake the Mets, who I like to refer to all the time as New York Junior. And they, the Braves. Granted, they didn't go. Granted, by the time they didn't do very well in the postseason, but they didn't lead the division for much of the year. The Mets did, and the Braves go ahead and overtake them by sweeping them and eventually clinching the NL East for another typical Mets collapse in September. Yes, the Mets still won 100 games and made the playoffs and ultimately lost, but that we're not going to talk about the playoffs. We're talking regular season because that's what the reward is based off of. But it should have been Snitker. You saw what the Braves did, play way out of their minds than anybody thought they could do. I mean, still a great team, but they played way out of their minds and overtook the Mets and won the NL East. So I'm a little disappointed in that award that went to Buck. Don't get me wrong, love Buck Showalter, great manager. Still missing that championship ring, but and he wins everywhere he goes. But it should have been Snitker, just given the performance of the Braves in the regular season, being able to overtake New York Junior.
That's fair enough. All right, let me go over before I turn it over to George. Once again, folks, in case you're just joining us, this show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're at home on your computer, you can watch it through the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you want to locate it, just go to youtube.com and look for South Florida Tribune, and please subscribe to get all the necessary notifications that we have. We do a lot of streams as well as we do a lot of remote broadcasts, media availabilities, whatever is available to all of us there as well. So good stuff. Another guy that want to acknowledge here, I appear on his morning show from time to time, is Key Williams. Thank you very much, Key, for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. I will be on a morning show in the not too distant future. I'm just trying to wrap up some loose ends here. So, Key, thank you very much for joining us. It is tremendously appreciated. Just look at all the nice people you get to meet out there. So, and also people can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, and then find us on Twitter at Tribune South. So, thanks, Key, for joining us. We appreciate you a lot. So, all right, George, give me your parting shot, please.
Well, I'm happy with some of the announcements coming out of Detroit. Scott Harris, AJ Hinch, today they announced they're hiring 3 new hitting coaches, including someone I know you know, Scott, James Rolson, the Miami Marlins. Brader came from the San Francisco Giants organization. Beauregard, he came from the Los Angeles Dodgers system. And they've got a new athletic trainer, too. So these are the kinds of things that the Tigers had to do, is to clean house. And they did it in the hitting department, which I'm glad they're doing, and in the training department. Although our friend, you know, Scott, we're very disappointed, you know, that Kevin Rand has been stripped of his job. But what a class guy Kevin is. And I know, Scott, you're closer to him than I am. But the Tigers obviously had to do something. And also, they heard one of the guys that Chris Fetter worked with up at U of M. So bringing in a couple of Wolverines into the dugout's not going to hurt anything either. So they're getting new blood. So I want to say hats off to Scott Harris. The jury obviously is still way out for this. But going into other systems, successful ball clubs, and rating them a little bit, hey, I'm all for it, as long as you can get the right talent here in the Motor City to try to improve this sad sack Tiger organization.
So I want to put out a special thanks to everybody in the chat room. Jeremy Ballrick, Key Williams just popped in, and of course Will Vogel. So we encourage everybody to pop in when you can and take a look at us. My parting shot is one that, you know, is what I've always believed. I mentioned him a little earlier in the show. Pete Rose is 81 years of age, and he's asking Commissioner Rob Manfred for reinstatement, wants a Hall of Fame chance. The only thing I'm going to say about this, Pete, okay, the only way you're getting in the Hall of Fame is when you're dead, period. Nobody would give you the satisfaction of going into the Hall of Fame now, knowing that you've showed up Cooperstown many times, having book signings there while they were going through the festivities, and they all know that people will question the sincerity of whether or not you really are sorry that you lied and you covered it up for a while. I'm not going to get into too much of the gambling, but now we already know it. But they've kept you, or there's a reason why you banned, because I don't get into a lot of politics, but don't make it look like you're the Watergate of gambling, where the cover up is worse than the crime, even though you lied. Pete, you know what? Nobody can take away your record amount of hits. And the Cincinnati Reds did retire your number. More power to you. You certainly deserve to have it retired wherever you're going to get. And you hate to see a guy's off field issues get in the way of what they did on the field. But remember the one thing about the Baseball Hall of Fame, okay? You got Pete Rose not out there. You have a lot of great players not out there as well. You got barrybonds that had been let in, and the list goes on and on. So, Pete, I know what you're trying to do. I can appreciate what you're trying to do, but I only have a few words of wisdom for you, Mr. Rose. Don't hold your breath while you're alive! Exclamation point. You're not getting in until you're dead. All right. With that said, okay, we'll go around the horn one more time and let everybody know how we can get a hold of you. Rick, lead off, please.
You can find me on my website, www.charlottebats.com. You can go on there, sign a petition to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, and I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. If you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
All right, Eric.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports Team News, and I'm on the blog I write for at Belly Up Sports, where I discuss all things baseball.
George?
Yeah, I'm the author of a book on the Detroit sports broadcasters on the air, which chronicles guys like Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey and Bud Lynch and Bruce Martin, Van Patrick, Bob Reynolds, and all the great sportscasters we've been blessed with here in the state of Michigan. And it's available. There's a link on the South Florida Tribune website under Motor City Tribune. The columns that I write for Scott and Candy on the website, there'll be a link to my book. And also, Scott, you were in the book, and we're proud of that, interviewing Jimmy Connors and Muhammad Ali.
Don't get any better than that. Well, I mentioned information a few times, but if you're a Twitter follower, go to South Florida Tribune. It's at Tribune South. And of course, our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Special kudos to Candy Ebling, who does a fantastic job with putting the content up on the website, shows and whatnot. And so coming up at approximately 9 Eastern time will be Fire Up Wisconsin. Rick Curdy, Eric Katz, Candy Ebling, and Brett Gardapi will be on. So I'm hope you can join us for them. They do a great job on that broadcast. And I enjoy the fact that I'm able to take Rick and Eric on Tuesday night and double them up on both shows. Everybody that we bring on here, we're a family, folks. We're a family, and I love it when everybody comes on consistently because they put their heart and soul into not only providing good opinions, but more importantly, they do their research again. So, once again, glad we had some activity in the chat room as well. Jeremy, Will, Key, all I can say to all of y'all, God bless. So with that said, this concludes this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth. I want to thank Rick Curdy, Eric Katz, and George Eichhorn for joining us tonight. Also, one other thing I want to mention before we go off the air is if you didn't have a chance to watch yesterday's special edition of the Sports Exchange, please go to the YouTube channel and do it. I had a great in-depth interview with Russell Branham, who's a track historian for Miami Homestead, Daytona, as well as Talladega. We had a great time talking NASCAR. Russell's a class act. We've done a couple projects together. We're hoping to do more in the future. And this is one thing I like to do. And in addition to having panels, I like to do a lot of one-on-one interviews as well, so I can talk to the newsmakers and go in depth and up close with them as well. So I can go a lot of different ways. So please, if you get a chance to go to our YouTube channel, look up the NASCAR show from last night. Went about 90 minutes, but Russell and I had an opportunity to open up NASCAR and give you things on that show that most people can get. And Russell's a good people. And I've met a lot of good people in this industry, more good than bad for sure. And I think what drives me about this platform is knowing that I work with excellent people that I truly have so much respect and admiration for and compassion for. So with that said, that'll do it for tonight. So on behalf of Rick, Eric, George, myself, Scott, thank you very much for joining us at the top of the hour, Fire Up Wisconsin. Rick and Eric, you got some more stuff to do.
Yes,
and
sir.
Brett should be waiting on the corner as well. So George, we will talk soon. Everybody have a great week and be safe out there. And God bless to you once again. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.